Welcome, Warriors. It is a solo episode today. It's just me, your only host, Eric, and we are going to cover the book that I just published called The Warrior Code. As we see here in the physical presence, we're going to cover the format, we're going to cover why, when, all of the topics and tidbits. We're going to go over some sections inside of the book. I'm not going to give you all the guts and gory. Did you hear that? This is why I'm a writer, not a speaker. All the guts and glory about the book, because that's what I want the reader to experience without having being psychologically preconceived and conditioned into their mind. I'd rather them read it first, reiterate it, analyze it, and redistribute it by themselves. So without further ado, what is the reason that I wrote this book? What inspired this book? For the most part, we're going to kind of gravitate in the journey of my thoughts and philosophies that I consumed over time to perform the action of creating this self-help empowering book. You know, the tagline has always been empower, inspire, unite. Back when this was purely a fitness apparel and motivational platform, and I didn't care if I reached one person or a million. My point was to affect one person in a way that changed and shaped their perspective in a way that allowed gratitude and servitude to consume their lives in order to understand that their own talents were good enough. Today's world, we're often shunned because we're conditioned to think that what we do already is not good enough to value ourselves over. So the moment that mindset gets instilled into our minds, it creates this chaotic encapsulation that disallows us to perform at a level that we desire inside of our hearts and our souls. So my goal and what really inspired this book is to put all of those thoughts and philosophies into something physical, a hard copy that I can hand to someone to hopefully make a difference in their lives based off of where they are right now, regardless of what's going on and the circumstances in their lives, the atmosphere, the environments. I wanted something that could be handheld, that could be ran back to, that could always be available to them at any point in time where they need a refresher or a reminder. What is the demographic that I'm reaching out to with this book? The demographic of person that I truly believe that I at least want to reach is the person who's too scared to come out of the room, essentially. So anyone can get out of bed, they can roll over to church, they can roll over to a group, they can roll over to an A&A meeting, they can roll over to whatever atmosphere that naturally provides a uplifting or soul-spirited energy to them. I wanted to reach a person who's too scared to put their own shoes on to leave the path of their own life. That's the person I'm trying to reach. I'm trying to put in a verbal method myself into their shoes and write and prescribe an idea of philosophy that they can input into their life and hopefully provide a ladder of information so they can crawl themselves out of their darkness and create and manifest their own agenda of light, because I'm not in charge of that. Everything that I say in here is purely philosophy, perspective. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm not telling anybody how to change the way they're doing things as they are now. It's purely me trying to provide what I think is a scope of light and enlightenment to situations that currently affect us. That's truly my belief. I feel that in order to not necessarily help someone, but in order to understand someone in the most purest, genuine form of empathy, you have to be willing to wear their shoes. You have to be willing to put their eyes in your perspective and feel it. Not just talk about it, not just think about why, what, and when, but actually insert yourself into their metaphysical pair of shoes and really feel the disconnect that they have with life. That's purely what I feel is my goal in writing this, and if it doesn't help everyone in that way, I'm open to constructive criticism. I want to hear how you feel. I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you have to say about any of the content that is within this book. 100%. I'm totally open. I'm totally bioavailable at mind, if that makes sense. I want the ability, if I write another one or a subsidiary, a branch off of this book, I want perspectives and feedbacks, which is going to take a long time. I get it. You can't have enough quantifiable feedback on a book unless it's valued over time, because you need a good amount of volume in order to make a valid decision and a valid group of feedback to kind of shape the truth of how people are reading it. I wrote it without adding my own personal experiences. I didn't want that to shape anyone, and it could be very relatable to somebody, and I understand that, and I thought about adding that either in the front or the back of the book, but I didn't want this about me. I wanted this to be a totally constructive element to put yourself inside and actually reconstruct everything that's going on inside of here. And I don't feel like I can wholesomely do that if it's about me. Again, if this book changes one person's life, whether I know you or not, whether it's a distant person who you may have given this book to, I'm happy. At that point, I know my will was done and completed, and I can internally and intrinsically validate my efforts, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to construct words to give the most authentic view that I want to portray without slipping up. I'm a writer. Speaking isn't my biggest thing. Sometimes I slip up, sometimes I say the wrong thing, sometimes I don't have the words available at the tip of my tongue that I would like to, which is why I write, which is why I condense my thoughts on the paper or a notebook online. It seems to manifest better. Stories, poems, lyrics, books, whatever the case may be, that has always tended to be my best journey as far as being outspoken goes. Alright, without further ado, let's get into some of the topics in this book here. I'm going to open it up. And for anyone who buys a book locally, it is available on Amazon. This book is available on Amazon, but if you buy it locally from me, you have the benefit of getting the Empower, Inspire, Unite wristbands. They're supposed to be black and gold. They came out camo. I marveled it, didn't even think about it, but they look pretty cool. And you get this AWW All sticker, which obviously stands for Warriors Way. Looks pretty dope. I can see that rocking some big things later down the road. So let's kind of go over the cover. I designed this all by myself. You can do it as well. It doesn't take a ton of effort, just you have to have a creative onslaught of ideas, and over time you understand the presence of what you want to put out. You understand how you want things to look. So I really went with an old scroll, an old eclectic kind of feel with this. It kind of looks like parchment paper if you can see the color of the yellow to orange and the fade that kind of goes in and out of it. Roses. Why did I add roses? I added roses on the front because flowers are a great sign of fruitful vitality in life, that you're able to blossom something from the ground up, something that never existed, that was just a little tiny seed that can blossom into such a beautiful flower. Swords. Why did I add the swords? The swords have always been a part of the logo or design. The swords are meant, and the shields and the helmets, and all of the Viking warrior-esque imagery. It's all meant to show the truth that we all have to put on our armor every day. We have to be willing to fight for ourselves. We have to be willing to fight for the things that we believe internally, even though we struggle to show and exemplify in our day-to-day life. It's hard sometimes, but we all have our own talents and we all have our own strengths that are just waiting for us to empower, inspire, and unite those together with other people, with ourselves, with our future, with our own belief systems and mechanisms and habits. We all have something inside, and you may not have anyone telling you this day in and day out. You may have been conditioned similar to me as a kid. Just, oh, you're good enough, do this, do that. Well, when you're just told you're good enough all the time, you don't really have a plateau and threshold system. You're always just kind of rocking with an intuition without the experience to deliver the validation of that intuition sometimes. And it's hard. That is very hard to go through circumstantially, environmentally, and most definitely emotionally as a young person growing up, trying to be better than the conditions and the habits and the environments that they were put in. The wings, there's more flowers down here, but the angel wings down here, and I made them dark. And I know some people might be, well, why aren't they white? One, it looks better on the cover. Two, this is the darkness. These are the swords going into our darkness with roses blossoming out of it. So there's definitely some irony and beautiful poetry happening in the images here to allow that beauty to come out of darkness and let the light shine for our own lives and everyone else around us, and to bear those wings as a sign that we don't necessarily forget where we're from, but we can remember at all times. I'm a big fan of not forgetting your past. So a lot of people will condemn others if they hold on to their past, and there's validity to that. However, you don't have to forget what your past is about. I choose to view it as if your past was a dragon and you are your castle, and you put that dragon in the furthest, darkest, shallowest, deepest part, and you chained it up. You chained it up to an area where you can talk to it, where you can go there, and you can grab information that was there at one point in time and can still be available to you, so you don't forget how you were built. It's almost like the seed in the ground. The dragon in the bottom of the castle is always chained and locked there. I feel like to let go of your past in total is to forget the gratitude of where you came from, even if you only had a little bit, because all of that in our end days is going to make a major difference and major influence in our final thoughts and soul reflections before that final last light goes out and our energy goes back to the universe. Let's open sesame here, guys. Alright, the Warrior Code outline. So on the first page here, there are 8 topics. And now we're going to get into the format of why and how I wrote this book the way that I did, in comparison to a lot of the books that are on the shelves and also available on Amazon and online everywhere. I totally changed the format of this book here. So, first topic, faith. What you believe in. Now, it's going to jump into a lot of, I don't want to say generalized, but an open-minded point of view of what faith can, is, would be, what you think it should be, what it could be in another reality if you weren't who you were. It doesn't shove any information down your throat. Any of this. None of this does that. The second one, morality and ethics, which is almost like a subsidiary of faith, but not exactly the same thing. Right versus wrong. What is right? 3, understanding and caring, why you believe, and personal reflection. 4, the hardships, how to handle pain and suffering in life. 5, respect. You have to give to get. That's a pretty cliche saying, but it's a really golden nugget if you can truthfully understand the depth of why that's said. 6, the miracle of love. This is honestly maybe my favorite part of this whole book that I wrote. Love creates miracles. Just saying that alone. Miracle of love. Love creates miracles. This honestly might be my favorite part of the book. Number 7, integrity. Defining your character and its role. 8, the warrior code. Empower, inspire, unite. The 3 laws of a warrior's way. So there's going to be 8 sections, and there's about 70 written pages in here, so it's not super long. When I originally set out to write this, my goal was like a 200-page book. But as you and I both know, attention span today is minimal compared to the days and times where long and heavy books were a thing. So I condensed all of it. I decided to go more towards a guide versus a novel, if that makes sense. So at the end of each section, it allows the reader, and this is my favorite part where I changed the format, and as I mentioned earlier before, you are allowed to rewrite, and there's pages in the actual book to write in. Rewrite that section for yourself based on where you are in your life right now, using the information provided in this book. Now, I'm not saying all the information in this book is right. Again, it's philosophy, but it's guided towards helping people in some mindsets that they may have forgotten about, or some mindsets that they haven't really been influenced with. So I allow 8 times. You get to rewrite each section. Then at the back of the book, I'll show you those sections real quick first. You see right there. So there's faith, what you believe in, and there's this whole empty section right there. Morality and ethics, understanding all these hardships, respect. Miracle of love, integrity, empower, inspire, unite. Then here, we'll leave pages for reflections. Here at the end, I'll leave a bunch of empty pages for your warrior journey. So this allows you, if you have any thoughts that expand past what's available in the rewritten section, if you have thoughts and ideas and mindsets and things that come into your head, there's a section back here for you to write it and start plotting it down, because your journey doesn't start until you're the one who actually starts it. Nobody can come in and hand feed you the work ethic in order to instill the talents that you already have. We can provide a ladder for you. We can provide information. We can provide a major catalyst to get you towards that growth and get you in a mindset and habitual experience to manifest that reality. But nobody can actually force you to do that. And if it's got to be forced, what value is actually being provided at that time? And I did this in short because I wanted something that somebody could read 10 times over versus one book that they may not finish ever. It's easy to grab it. It's quick, it's short, it doesn't even weigh that much, and it has a prestige look to it that just makes you feel like there's spirit coming to you. And that's the vibe that I get. And that might sound somewhat selfish because I'm the one who created the way it looks and the guts that are inside of it. But that's what I portrayed. Feedback. The best feedback that I got so far And this is still very beta. So in my personal experience, because I'm all new to this, I'm assuming a book needs to be out for 6 to 12 months before you even start getting that heavy quality feedback that's really going to shape the way that the writer should really hone in on and listen to the reader, because obviously what they're experiencing while they're reading this should shape the whole perspective and philosophy of my philosophy and perspective. Because if not, then what's the point? It's meant to help people. It's meant to create an avenue of servitude if I can't be there for somebody. Because I have this, I've been having white knight syndrome before, and today it's easy to label things to people. It's easy to place someone in a category and just wrap it with identifications. To me, that's soulless. To me, that takes the soul right out of people and the humanity that they exist within. I just personally believe, and again, you don't have to believe me, but my truth belongs somewhere between servitude and gratitude. Because I don't believe you can have a top tier view and understanding of gratitude unless servitude is the catalyst and ever revolving energy instilled to provide that. Servitude is the biggest quantifiable piece of gratitude to exist in the world. Servitude is the action of love. If you truly love other people, if you truly want to experience the spirit of other people, you have to provide love. And not just a vocal, show the world, vocality online kind of thing. You have to show people love when no one's looking. You have to show people love when it's not convenient to you. Servitude is special when it's not convenient to you, when it's not on your own time, when it's not on your own hours, and 100%, mark my words on this, and not when you're getting a reward for it. Servitude without a reward is a truthful, most wholesome, genuine, and authentic piece of gratitude that you can ever reach in life. That's my belief. I firmly believe that when you manifest, and by manifest, I don't mean casting spells and stuff like that. I mean when you manifest that truth inside of you to exemplify the words that you're saying. Servitude and gratitude are the two most compelling parts of life that will fill in the dots and teach you the things that nobody else ever taught you in the world as you were growing up as a child, to a young adult, to an experienced adult, to a wise old owl. Those two pieces of the puzzle, I believe, can sincerely affect in the most positive, beneficial ways the landscape of everyone else around you's puzzle that they're trying to fill in themselves. I stand on that. I want that to be a belief that I never fail. And that's the mindset. Trying not to fail that belief, even though I have before. This whole program, when I started with God's Warriors Unite, you see, I was motivated, I was loud, I was very prideful. I posted videos that showed my passion, aggressiveness, which scared a lot of people. I was selling clothes in the gym and the fitness industry, and it was cool. You met a lot of great people. However, apparel just didn't seem like my vibe. Not that I was against it, but it got to the point where I felt the mission was being materialized, and that materialization of the mission just drove me into this plunder that I was constantly running a rat race to put a piece of clothing or a wristband or something of that nature into someone's hand in order to make the mission validated, even though that's not what I wanted from the get-go. So when that cataclysmic bombshell kind of went off inside of my heart and my soul, the whole mission kind of fell, and it kind of went stagnant for a while. I never stopped believing in it. I never stopped truly believing I would re-gravitate back into it in a more forceful manner with a better vision long-term for it. And I believe I'm starting to creep up on that now. Like, I feel like this is just the beginning of where I want it to be. I always have a long end game in mind. Short term isn't always my best forte. I've always had an honest vulnerability living in the moment, mostly because my own traumas and experiences and massive anxieties and emotional abuse growing up kind of sunk all that into me. But the one thing that I truly believe made a difference is being able to see the whole perspective of all of this, to take that and know that I can make a difference in other people's lives, and maybe going through the same thing at the same time. I think that's always what saved me. And I'm going to give a special shout out to my great grandma, Dorothy Wright, because watching her as a child, just, there was this energy that was so pure and so honest that in the middle of chaos, there is this lit flame that was just pure of love and energy and awesomeness that just filled my soul and my stomach with Oreos, because she wouldn't let us eat there without eating a ton of Oreos. She wouldn't let us leave there without eating a ton of Oreos, is what I'm trying to say. And bless that woman's heart. I once wrote a little rap song that said, getting off topic, but she's part of the reason this was inspired. It said, if Jesus came to me and said, you are me, save the world, do it for the boys and girls, I'd take that vow and I wouldn't ask how, I'd start my prowl, begin it now. And that plays in my head so often, every time I'm starting to go down a lack of discipline, or I'm starting to do things slightly out of character that may not be good for my soul. I think, like, if Jesus were to come down and, like, pick me, this is just generally speaking, so it could pick you as well. If Jesus were to come back and say, it's your turn, at that point, what do you do? What do you think? What do you say? Are you prepared? Are you ready? Because the discipline that's going to take is extremely out of this world. The servitude, the gratitude, and the miracles of love that are required would be astronomical. It would defy the minds of 95% of the people around you. Are we prepared for that? This is getting deep. This is getting past the book. But I feel like it's something that a lot of people haven't thought about. Instead of how we look at the world, have you ever thought about how the world looks at us? Our daily actions, our habits, what we do to validate who we are and justify our means. You ever thought about how the world actually looks at you? If you were a bright star way up in space, with a telescope, zone, and zoomed in on you. That was a lot of zones. That was a lot of zoning. Hopefully the city doesn't come after me for zoning taxes. But if it's zoomed in on you, how would your perspective change? What would you do differently if everything was flipped upside down? That, I believe, is a strong key of how we should initiate our perspective in a big world life. That is how we begin to change, when we see things bigger than us. That is how unity happens. That's how we inspire ourselves. That's how we empower this mitochondria of soulful swords inside of our veins to create the warrior that we are meant to be. We're all meant to be a warrior of our own kind. And whatever way that you choose to do so is on you. But by God, when I see energy and when I feel it, I believe the deliverance of that should be geared towards everything that you need to be about. How are you going to shape your miracle of love to the world? How can we activate that code inside of us to flip the switch of servitude? It ain't about the money for me. It ain't about the views. It ain't about the likes. It ain't about the follows. It's about affecting that person in the most shallow, deepest part of their pain and their darkness, to create an uprising and uproot that, to blossom it into something so unique and so special. That is what I'm freaking passionate about. I use that term passion aggressive because a lot of people mistake passive aggressiveness for it, when we've become so lightly, what's that word I'm looking for? Let me change that around. We become strongly offended when people stand up for themselves, when people speak with passion, because oftentimes we lack the passion ourselves, which creates this illusion of insecurity that puts us down a rabbit hole of everyone else is attacking us, which is not true. Most of the time, many people have just as much anxiety as you do. So if someone speaks up and they seem a little gritty in their conversation and their talk, and the volume escalates a little bit, that doesn't necessarily mean they're attacking you. That means they're strongly emotional and passionate about something, which is why I call it passionate aggressiveness, because it's such a, well, mutual bonded concept that actually makes sense. Before I leave this podcast episode, I just want you as the listener to not only give me as much feedback as possible, but I want you to really digest what it means to empower, inspire, unite on a world level. That begins with ourselves, because every action and habit that we take and every step that we grow towards and the footprint that we leave behind are literally changing humanity forever. It may take a long time. There only may be one person who listens to this. But if that person is shaped by anything that I said, I just hope that it helps in a way that allows you to be okay when you're alone, when no one else is around to comfort you. You can create your own environment of positivity and blossom flowers, because that's where the beauty comes in. If you can find that strength in your darkness, when you're all alone and it seems like nobody's around, when you can find that ability to stand up, to put your feet in the ground and harvest the excellence that you know you think about day in and day out, but can't necessarily find the best way to navigate it and begin working it to create that craft that you are and you will become. Your dreams should not be short-sighted because other people can't see as far as you can. And you're so unique and special to your own talents that only you can remind yourself that in order to be that person, you gotta believe in yourself so much to take those first steps. And they're gonna be hard. You're gonna be hitting tidal waves. You're gonna be hitting earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes of life. You're gonna get smacked in the face and knocked the fuck down. But that's all meant to give you the grittiness to create the next best person that you are, because there's never a bad time to recreate yourself and step up. There's no straight line to success. There isn't. Some people may have had a better upbringing than you that give them a higher threshold to start off of, but that doesn't mean that they understand and earned it and believe in the charisma that it took and the perseverance that they stood through to get to that level. You were whole. You were everything this world needs. I love you. The world loves you. And if you plug into the world, you'll start to see that more. You'll start to see the truth and the connections and the interwebbings that allow us to energetically collide in ways that can't be written, that can't be said, that can't be performed. I hope this helps you. Again, I have copies of the book. They're on Amazon. I will be posting over time bits and pieces and quotes out of each section of the book as well. That way I can start to speak it myself versus just write it. And you're not required to buy it, but if there's anything in life from a personal standpoint that I would ask you to purchase, it would be this, because I believe this is part of my best foot forward in order to help people in an element that allows them to help themselves. So that about concludes this podcast. I hope I got a lot off my chest, my mind, my body, and soul. And if I start getting worked up moving forward, just know that a lot of this is the premise of it. A lot of this is the basis of that passion, aggressiveness that I believe in. And I hope that it truly helps other people. I hope that my presence helps other people. I hope that your presence blossoms into something 100 times the size of me to help other people as well. So remember, empower, inspire, unite. That's the Warrior Code.